Hey Spookaroos, it's your host Eric D here. As you may recall, when last we spoke, I was having some technical difficulties with the microphone, and that caused even more of a delay than usual in getting these episodes out. But here is your remix episode for the week. This one is all about strange disappearances. Now, this is back from the days when I thought that I was going to, not that I thought, I actually did, try my hand at stand-up comedy, and I tried that for a few years before I realized it's kind of, unless you like really, really, really want to do it and you got a burning desire, it's kind of a young person's game. If you're older, it's much more difficult. If you're kind of settled in your life and you have a job that you have to be at 7:30 in the morning, with great desire, you could still do it. But I found out I didn't have that great desire, and that's okay. We have different callings in life. And but this is from a time when we, Tom and I, who's my co-host on this episode, Tom Cole, still thought that maybe we'd become comics. Now, I still have more of a chance than he does, although I haven't done stand-up comedy in a couple of years now, even before COVID. But Tom is now married, and he's got 2 kids now, and a dog and a house. So I think probably he's not going to end up being a stand-up comedian, and I most likely will not either. But that's okay, because here I am, a podcast host, a witch finder, and of course I still got my day job and all that fun stuff. So this is a good episode, but I do want to let you know it does take a while before we start talking about the subject of the show, and I was tempted to cut out all the extra talk about comedy and all that kind of stuff, but I think we raise some interesting points about how comics think. Even people who are just, I think people who are fans of comedy and understand comedy think different than other people, and how that kind of works. And so there's a discussion about that, so I think you guys will enjoy that. Before we get into the episode, let me tell you, we have our new Instagram account at Spooky Times with Eric D. That's our new Instagram account. Not too many followers over there yet, so not a lot of you have jumped over. I hope you'll consider doing that today. We also have our Patreon, patreon.com/witchfinder, and that will take you to Witchfinder Productions, because Spooky Times with Eric D is a Witchfinder production. So if you join, you get exclusive videos and upcoming future episodes, exclusive episodes, and sometimes I do photo dumps and stuff like that. So check out the Patreon if you are able to, and become a true blue spookaroo. Chip in, help the show out, help the Witchfinder out, help everybody out. All right. Here we go with the episode. This is back from, I think, 2016 still. I think we're still in the first year of the show with these episodes. So enjoy Strange Disappearances. Welcome to Spooky Ass Shit. I am your host, Eric Dwinells. And with me again, the one and only Tom Cole.
Hey Eric.
What's
Howdy,
going on?
friends out there in the ether. That's a word that I use that I don't necessarily know what it means. The ether.
Ether was a theory
Okay.
of what made up space, because they thought that light from the sun needed something to travel through because you need waves.
Right.
So they thought that ether was the stuff between the earth and the sun.
Ah.
Turned out to be false.
Yeah, not true at all.
Yeah.
But that's ether, huh?
That's what ether is. Yep.
Man, we're all learning something today,
There you
folks. That's very impressive.
And I just knew that. Did I look that up? No.
Nope.
Look at that.
That just happened.
Sometimes this dumbass knows shit.
Yeah, we're starting this spooky ass episode off with some knowledge.
There you go.
That's excellent.
Astrophysicist Eric Dwinells to the rescue. Tonight's topic is a little bit, when I picked topics for the show, I don't mind getting real and spooky and real spooky.
Right.
And sometimes even more than spooky, like straight up scary. Now,
Right.
we haven't done a ton of those.
No, it's been mostly very light.
Right. But, who knows how long the show will go on. And I don't necessarily want to shy away from stuff like true life serial killers,
Exactly.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, you want a well-rounded spooky show. You don't want just like we're talking all
Right.
ghouls and goblins.
On the other hand, I don't know that you're the right guest to discuss, The Night Stalker with, or something like that.
Yeah.
because two comics, like, there's nothing funny about murder. Well, you can write jokes about anything, I suppose.
You sure can.
Yeah. I was actually working on. This is something I'm working on. Don't steal this idea.
Okay.
I'm talking to people out.
I know.
world.
I gotcha.
Yeah. But I was thinking.
You guys don't steal. I'll steal it.
I was thinking about this actually, and we actually referenced this guy on a past episode. But there's a serial killer. Well, first of all, I was just thinking when you're a serial, if you put yourself in the mind frame of a serial killer,
yeah,
part of being a serial killer is getting a nickname, right?
Of course.
So presumably,
I believe that's why you become a serial killer.
Well, presumably, you want a badass nickname, like a cool, badass nickname. You know, like the Night Stalker.
Absolutely.
Or, I don't know, what else? There was some other, the Boston Strangler.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
Sticky Bandits. That's Home Alone 2. Or Home Alone.
All right, well. But there's a serial killer who was known as the weepy-voiced killer.
Oh.
And I was thinking, you know, how disappointed
he must have been so bummed.
Must he be when he opens the paper and he's like, man, I can't wait to see what they call me. They're going to call me what?
The weepy voice killer?
Yeah. I'm going to be Hell's Demon. I'm going to be Satan's Spawn. And then you're the weepy voice killer.
That's terrible.
Right?
That's awful.
So that's not a joke. I'm just saying there's a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So there are things that you can joke about as far as murder goes.
Exactly. It's not making light of a terrible situation.
No, not the murder itself, not the victims, of course.
Yeah.
And you don't want to glamorize the murderers either. Which in that case, I think that's a good example of how you don't glamorize.
You kind of do the opposite.
Mocking, yeah. But anyway, I'm just not sure that true life serial killers are the topic to discuss with you. I think we'll do it someday just to put it to the test. To see if two comics
can do it.
Yeah.
Have a nice serious conversation.
Yeah. I'm just going to mention this. This might not make it into the show. But I remember we did a gig together recently, a fundraiser.
Yeah.
That my whole family showed up for, which they never come to my comedy. Like,
the whole family too.
The whole family came. And, I don't have parents, but my siblings came.
Yep.
And my brother's wife came. And my sister's husband, the whole family. But
I know where you're going.
But what freaked me the fuck out about it is the people running the fundraiser sat them at the same table as me and the other performers.
Not a good move, by the way.
No. I was like, you cannot sit here. And they're like, they told us to sit here. I was like, you can't sit here. Yeah. You're freaking me out. You got to get out of here.
They were nice people. Not the same sense of humor.
Right. Well, that's the problem. It's not that having them there made me nervous.
Yeah.
It's that I was nervous about what my comedy friends were going to say in front of my, honestly, a little bit uptight family.
Well, I just remember it's like they sat down and within 3 minutes something was said. And I saw something was said and a member of your family just, you could see the look in their eyes of like, oh my God, I can't believe that was just said.
Well, first of all, you specifically, and again, amongst comics, we know that we're all fucking with each other.
Right.
And that none of anything that we say is meant seriously.
That's the fun,
that's just, But as soon as Tom sat down, he said something about the Jews. My sister-in-law is Jewish and very sensitive about like that kind of humor. And he didn't even say it. He didn't even know. He just literally said something, blah, 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 the Jews.
Yeah.
And I just knew. I was like, oh, fuck. Like, now we're going to hear about that. I tried to block out my family. I literally, like, sat at the table I didn't even eat dinner.
You didn't? No.
I stood up the whole night. I stood up to the side with my song cabaret partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just stood off stage instead. I was I got to introduce all the acts. But I was like, I cannot believe they sat them there.
Yeah. I do remember saying something about the Jews, and I do remember the response, and I think I was quiet.
And Tom loves Jews, by the way.
I do. I love everyone. And I can't remember what the joke was, but it wasn't like anything mean at all. No. It was literally, I think she just hears Jews and like the hairs on her neck stood up.
Yeah. Well, like I said, my family is They're all nice people, as you
Yeah.
said, but they are a little bit uptight sometimes.
Yeah, it's
And
just,
my sister has flat out told me she doesn't think I'm funny and all this stuff.
yeah, she's real supportive too. But yeah, just normal people are just different.
Yeah. We veered way off again. Let's get back to...
Yeah, we're way out. Yeah.
So I have a little hesitation to bring in like too serious subjects to the
Right.
show,
Okay.
especially when someone like you is my co-host. And that is why, because I know that you and I can riff on any number of subjects,
I hear you.
no matter what they are.
Yes.
And it might be funny to us,
But not necessarily
and it might
to
be funny to other comics.
99.9% of the
they'll just be like,
population.
oh my God, I can't believe
Yeah,
they're
you guys-
making jokes about this, or,
You
and you
guys are
take it out
bad.
of context. And
You're bad people.
yeah, don't judge us.
No,
We
we're
are what
nice
we are.
people. We just have twisted senses of humor.
So tonight, our subject is a serious subject,
Okay.
but there is some humor to be found in especially some of these stories, because this is going to be like an anthology episode, I guess you could say,
All right.
where it's not just one story, but it's several stories.
All right. Look at you describing the ether and then using anthology all in the first, 5-10 minutes of a podcast. I'm
Yes.
impressed.
That's right.
This is the kind of podcast that you folks are getting. This is a highbrow podcast.
That's right.
Ether and anthology. Those aren't big words for many of you, but for me, I'm impressed.
We will begin our anthology tonight. No. Tonight, we're going to be talking about some missing people.
Okay.
And not just missing, but they're missing in mysterious circumstances.
Would you say spooky circumstances?
I would say that some of these are indeed
Okay.
spooky circumstances.
Right.
So let's begin
Okay.
with Joan Risch, a 31-year-old who is living not too far away in Lincoln, Massachusetts.
Oh, beautiful Lincoln, Massachusetts. A lot of money in Lincoln, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It's a nice town.
This was 1961, so I'm not sure what it looked like back then, but I'm sure it didn't go from a slum to what it is now. All right, so Joan was a 31-year-old homemaker and a mother of two.
Okay.
Her husband, Martin Risch, was an executive at a paper company.
Okay.
Now, on this day in 1961, he was away on a business trip in New York.
All right.
Keep that in mind. On October 24th, 1961, the Rich's 4-year-old daughter ran to a neighbor and said, "Mommy is gone, and the kitchen is covered with red paint."
Oh, okay.
The neighbor went over to investigate and found it was not paint, but in fact blood all over the kitchen.
Blood. Okay.
Smeared all over the kitchen.
Right.
And her 2-year-old son was napping.
Okay.
But Joan was nowhere to be found.
Gone.
The police came, and they also discovered that the telephone was ripped from the wall.
Okay.
They found a bloody fingerprint that did not match anybody in the house, nor anybody that they tested since.
All right. So someone came in.
No weapon was ever discovered. There was a bloody trail that ended in the driveway, and some blood was found on the side of Joan's parked car.
Okay.
Neighbors said that they had seen a strange sedan in the driveway, but that sedan was later determined by police to be an unmarked police cruiser. The police theorized that Joan was abducted. She was probably either put into another car or ended up in the woods, chased or carried by her assailant,
Right.
which would explain
Yeah, that would
the
make
blood
sense.
smears
Yeah.
and the bloody trail. A neighbor said she had seen Joan running around her house that afternoon, and that she looked a little bit out of it. But she just thought that Joan was chasing one of the children around the yard.
Okay.
A few motorists said they had spotted a bloody woman looking dazed and confused near the site where Route 128 was being built. None of them stopped to offer any help.
No, why would they?
some of the theories include that she may have been attacked and run for help.
Right. I could see that.
Or had some kind of psychotic breakdown and run out of the house. And that she fell into a pit where they were excavating to build Route 128.
All right. Yeah.
And that her body wasn't noticed, and that they built the road over her body.
They buried her.
And that's why she's never been discovered.
Oh.
Because her body's never been found.
Oh, okay.
Other people think she fled into the woods and got lost out that way. Other people believe the abduction theory.
Right.
But let me just say this, because the case gets a little bit stranger.
I was going to say, it's not spooky
The husband
yet.
was suspected.
Naturally, that's what they always look to first.
Right. But as we said earlier, he was out of town that weekend.
That's a good alibi.
He, by the way, still lives nearby.
Oh, he's still kicking?
Yep. But he refuses to discuss the case.
I can't blame him. I hope he moved, too. I hope he doesn't live in that house.
The house actually still stands, but not where it originally stood, because they moved it to make the Minuteman National Park.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it now stands in Lexington.
Oh, well,
the whole house was moved to Lexington.
It's another nice.
And he does not live there anymore.
Okay.
Mr. But this article that I was reading this from, I think was written sometime in the 90s. Because they say it was, 30-something years ago. So that would put
so
the article 90s, in the 90s.
Yeah,
so.
that would check out, yeah.
Yeah. But they might still be in town. But they refuse to talk about the case. Martin Risch. I'm not sure I'm saying the name right. It's Risch. So I don't know if that's Rich or Risch. I'm saying Risch. But I'm
Go
not sure.
Risch.
Martin Risch was questioned by the investigators, but he was cleared as a suspect for whatever reason.
Right,
they don't
because
really
he
go
was out
into
of town and all that.
in the things that I read. But a reporter from a local newspaper found a clue in a very unlikely place. She was reading a book about Brigham Young's wife.
Yeah.
And she noticed that the book had previously been signed out on September 16th by Joan Risch.
Oh, interesting.
Now, what's mysterious about this is the book was about Brigham Young's 27th wife, the one who disappeared.
Hot damn.
Now, this reporter, she went through all different books in the library, and the librarians helped her. She found one called Into Thin Air, which was about another woman who had vanished, leaving no trace except for some bloody smears and a towel. Also signed out by Joan previously.
Get out. All right. It's getting spooky.
Now, the town's library committee went through all these books and made a list of some 25 books that Risch had read over the summer. Most were about murders or unexplained disappearances.
Okay.
This gave them the feeling that she had planned her disappearance.
Right.
And was now looking for a way out. We learn a little bit more about Joan's life through these circumstances. A, she had been sexually assaulted as a child.
Okay.
And it's also been reported that her parents were killed in a suspicious fire in New Jersey when she was just 9 years old.
Right. So she had a tough go
life.
of it. That's too bad.
Before she got married, she was working in a New York publishing house. She seemed to be a driven woman whose ambition had been somewhat slowed due to her marriage.
Yeah, having marriage, kids, house, all that stuff.
They only lived in Lincoln for 6 months before she disappeared.
Okay.
And apparently, she may have been starting to plan it over that summer.
Right.
So it could have been up to 3 or 4 months.
Did they live, I don't know if you mentioned this before, did they live in New York before they moved to Lincoln?
She did. I don't know if he did.
Okay, so
I would assume.
She went from like the hustle and bustle of the city and she had a career and everything down to Lincoln, it's very suburban. It's very quiet.
It's a pretty rural.
A rural,
very
quiet, wealthy neighborhood.
Yeah.
So she wanted a way out. That's my opinion.
That is a very popular theory. However, Sabra Morton, who was a college friend of Joan's,
Okay.
Disagrees. She said that Joan never seemed happier than when she lived in Lincoln. And this is a quote directly from Morton. She says, "I think Joan is almost certainly dead. She would never have left her family on her own."
Okay. How would Sabra know?
Well,
I mean, I know they were friends in college, but I have a lot of friends in college who would say things about me. I wouldn't trust any of those things.
Might be a different person than college age
Yeah.
Tom Cole.
Yeah, just a touch.
Yeah, well, I don't think most people I went to school with would remember me. I was very quiet, shy, back in those days.
Yeah, so they would say, like, oh, he was a little quiet, he was a little shy. Little did they know he's got spooky-ass podcasts, so they would be wrong. If
big hit. Big things happening around here.
Yeah, he's blowing up the ether.
So if you have any information on the whereabouts of Joan Risch, or Risch,
Yeah,
or Rich,
right.
one of those is
Any
correct.
of those three.
You should contact the Lincoln, Massachusetts Police Department, I suppose.
Well, you should probably contact, what's your email?
spookyasshit@gmail.com.
Contact spookyasshit@gmail.com. We'll get an exclusive interview with you, and then we'll go to the Lincoln Police.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the order of operations.
You just invited a bunch of bullshit to my inbox.
Oh, good.
Right.
I hope so.
Yeah. Ready for our next
I'm ready.
bizarre disappearance?
All right.
We're going to talk about Elizabeth Campbell. On April 25th, in the year 1988.
All right. More recent. The year of my birth.
Uh-huh. A 20-year-old college student, Elizabeth Campbell, was hanging at her boyfriend's house.
Chilling.
Unfortunately, the young couple got into an argument.
As young couples will do.
Elizabeth wanted to go home, but her boyfriend said, "I ain't driving you.
Yeah.
You're going to be a bitch about everything."
Yeah, he said, walk away like you always do.
Elizabeth left on her own, even though she lived 30 miles away.
It's a real good plan.
Now, as she's walking, Elizabeth runs into someone she knows from school, and he agrees to take her some of the way, but he ends up dropping her off at a convenience store, which is still like 20 to 15 miles away from where she wants to go.
He got her 10 to 15 miles.
She's still a long way from home. So she calls her boyfriend, allegedly, to pick her up, but he once again refuses. Her appearance at this convenience store is the last confirmed sighting of Elizabeth Campbell. 6 days after Elizabeth's disappearance, there were two separate sightings, both at convenience stores, approximately 85 miles away.
Interesting.
From where she went missing. In both stores, it was said that she looked very nervous, and she was with a man who would not let go of her arm.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it kind of indicates that she was abducted.
2 months later, there's yet another sighting of a woman who, again, looks very nervous and fits Elizabeth's description at a gas station, this time 150 miles away.
Okay.
These sightings have led to speculation that perhaps Elizabeth was abducted,
right,
and forced into white slavery, prostitution.
Okay.
Now, another interesting thing about this is that Elizabeth's purse was discovered in the possession of Crockett County Sheriff's Department in Ozana in 1992.
How did that happen?
That is a good question, because the police do not have an exact record of when the purse was found or who turned it in. They only say that they know that it was found near an interstate, which was approximately 180 miles away from where Elizabeth disappeared. But no information on when it came in or who brought it. But it was discovered in their possession. How many years later is that? 5 years later.
Right.
5 years after her disappearance.
That's spooky. That's weird.
Yeah. Who are these men?
I don't know.
But I wonder too about this boyfriend. Because who is saying and who is confirming that he refused to pick her up from the convenience store?
Right, exactly.
Is it the convenience store saying that, like, yeah, we heard it on the phone and she was very upset and she said her boyfriend wasn't going to come pick her up? Or is it just his word? Because if it's just his word, I'd look closer at this guy. Because maybe he did go pick her up.
Yeah, it's not worth anything. Yeah.
And maybe there was some trouble after that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that is what happened.
It's a possibility, though.
But it's something to look into.
It's definitely a possibility.
Are you ready to move on to our next story?
I am. I have to turn my phone off. Buzzed.
Bizarre disappearance. This one's real bizarre. All right, this one's really creepy.
All right, I'm ready for creepy.
And unfortunately, it involves children.
That makes it way worse.
Yeah.
It really does. That's terrible.
We're talking about an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
It's a lot of kids.
It's Christmas Eve, 1945, in the Sauter household. You have the 2 Sauter parents, and then 10 Sauter children.
That is a lot of kids.
Now, the parents wanted to go to bed.
Right. But
5 of the children were ready for bed.
Yeah.
But 5 more of the children said, we want to stay up a little bit late. It's Christmas Eve.
They're excited. Santa's coming.
Yeah. And the parents say, fine. Just don't stay up too late. We're going to go to bed now. Just after midnight, the phone rings. Mom answers the phone. We don't know exactly what was said. I don't have a report here. But she believes it's a prank call.
Right.
And hangs up. Then she says about an hour later, she was awoken by noises coming from the roof.
Okay.
As she starts to wake up, thinking she's going to go investigate this, she realizes the house is on fire.
Oh, jeez.
Mom and Dad and 5 of the Sauter children make it out of the house. They know that the other 5 children are up on the 2nd floor.
Right.
So they're looking for a ladder outside.
Yeah.
Now, the ladder is always in the same place. But guess what?
It's not.
It's not there. So the father says, well, I'll get my truck. We'll pull the truck up to the house.
Yeah, make it jump
and
down.
we can reach the window and they can jump down to us.
Right.
When he goes to try to start the truck, it won't start.
Oh, man.
The family attempted to call the fire department during all this.
The phone was cut.
The lines were cut.
Oh, man. Are these kids burning to death?
It's a good question, Tom. It's a good question because if they did burn in the fire, which is what you would presume happened,
right,
none of their remains were ever found.
Okay. That's very unusual.
True.
Because, at least there would be bone found.
Yes. When questioned about having enemies or anything like that might want to see harm come to the Sauter family, the Sauter parents remembered that sometime before the fire, 2 men showed up at their door. And they seemed to be making not very veiled threats about, it'd be a shame if the house burned down and all your children died.
Oh.
Now, one of the men, claimed to be an insurance salesman. But he seemed to know George Sauter.
Gotcha, yeah.
George Sauter was the father of the family.
Yeah.
He was also an Italian immigrant.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, this is
I can see what's happening. Yeah.
And the quote-unquote insurance salesman says, you got to be careful because we've heard what you've been saying about Mussolini all around town.
Wow, talk about nationalists.
Uh-huh. Now, here's another little bizarre twist of fate. That same insurance salesman
Yeah.
later served on the coroner's jury that declared the Sodders family fire an accident, not an arson.
Get out. Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's not a conflict of interest, but they found it not. All right.
Now, this may or may not be credible, but a waitress at a roadside diner and a woman at a hotel later both claimed that they saw some of these missing children with a group of what they called Italian-looking men
Okay.
who wouldn't let them speak to anyone. But this tip didn't lead anywhere.
That's crazy.
It's just something that may or may not have happened.
And then they were never heard from again?
No, except they did find, I think it was either 6 months or 6 years. I forget what I read. But sometime after the fire, the Sodder family were hired people to go through and like excavate the site.
Yeah.
And they did find 6 small bones, which they believe may be from a child. But they were it was never confirmed.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, and still only 6.
You know,
When in theory 5 of their children perished in this fire.
right, exactly. They would have had.
Of various ages, and one I think the oldest was 14.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder with the advances in science if they've revisited it and
It's a
done
good
some
question.
DNA testing on the bones.
Yeah. Now, so the question then becomes what happened here. Now, the most basic answer, of course, is just that it was a fire.
Yep.
And the children perished in the fire. It's possible, but again, where are the remains? Especially with 5 children, 1 or 2 children, maybe they got buried in something and they burned extra long and it really destroyed
but
them.
with 5, the odds are in your favor that you're going to find something. Yeah.
So maybe it was a kidnapping, but there was never any ransom demands.
Right.
Maybe it was committed, like you said, by nationalists
Yeah.
as a sort of revenge, and who knows what happened to the children. But 20 years later, a picture arrived
Oh no.
addressed to Jeannie Sodder, mother of the family,
Okay. Yep.
and it was a picture of a young man. On the back of it was written, Louis Sodder.
Is that one of the missing kids?
Yes.
Oh no. What a mind fuck.
But there's no way of knowing if this actually was.
Yeah. If it was just someone messing with her or if it actually was Lewis.
Correct.
Wow.
You can see this picture and more on spookyasshit.com.
Wow, that's incredible.
And you can judge for yourself, because we'll have a picture of the child, Louis Sodder, that's gone missing, confirmed
Right.
picture. And then we'll have a picture of this mysterious adult, which may or may not be Louis Sodder, and you can decide
Yeah.
if they look alike.
But imagine getting that after all those years. That mom, just all those wounds just reopening as they were fresh. That's terrible. I mean, if it was really Louis Sodder, he should contact his mom. I mean, it's not just by picture.
That's the thing. Either it's a prank or a very cruel taunting
Right, yeah.
by someone who really
yeah,
does have a legitimate picture.
Yeah,
So why would you send that?
exactly. It's cruel either way.
Right.
Snip mods.
Is there anybody out there?
Ooh.
We're just coming back from some technical difficulties, which seem to be plaguing the show lately.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the government or perhaps trans-dimensional beings
Yeah, or
or spirits or demons,
I think it is.
gremlins.
It's just you're too damn spooky, and your computer can't handle it.
I guess so. The computer literally just shut down. The battery was not dead.
Nope.
But it just shut down as if the battery were dead.
Yep. But fortunately, and hopefully, we didn't lose absolutely everything we've done.
No, we definitely lost some stuff, so we're backtracking here. Forgive us if we seem a little scatterbrained here. We're trying to remember what we already talked about and what we haven't talked about yet.
All right, let's do it.
Now, one that I don't think we've talked about yet is Teresa Vare,
Yes.
16 years old, on June 1st, 1987. She goes on a camping trip in Fresno, California, with a gentleman named Russell Welch. Now, Russell happened to be...
He's probably a good high school boy, right?
Oh, you think so? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually 43 years old.
All right, creepy.
43-year-old man taking a 16-year-old girl on a camping trip. But don't worry, it's totally innocent and harmless.
It's not sketchy at all.
He says the reason they were going camping was actually they were hoping to find Bigfoot.
Oh, okay. You know, I thought maybe he had bad intentions going out with a 16-year-old, but now I know he was looking for Bigfoot.
No, he was just like, oh, no, it's easy. We're just go camping and, oh, you like Bigfoot?
Yeah. Cops
Yeah, I think I saw him one time.
Yeah.
Over in this isolated part of the woods there. And just sneak out there. Yeah, see his Sasquatch, maybe, and get some hair samples.
Your Norm Macdonald is good.
I purposely did not comment on how good my impersonation was, but I did note that was sort of a Norm Macdonald style.
It sure
and
was.
I was thinking that was a pretty good Norm. Welch returned without Teresa Bear.
Okay.
The police came to him and they questioned him. And he had originally said, "Oh, yeah, Teresa, yeah, she came out to the woods there, she came out to the woods there with me, but she just ran away. Yeah, 16 years old. She kind of run away sometimes.
It happens.
Yeah, teenagers." The police continued to question him about this,
I can't imagine why.
not quite believing his story. So he said to them, "All right, guys, look, I'm going to level with you. I'm going to tell you the truth. She didn't really run away. No, see, what actually happened was she was kidnapped by a Bigfoot."
Okay. That totally makes sense.
Yeah, it was a Bigfoot. He came walking through there, all hairy and shit. Yeah, and just picked her right up. I was like, that was weird,
Yeah, that's I can't believe they didn't buy that.
All right, now Welch was charged originally with child stealing because they couldn't charge him with murder or kidnapping or anything because they had no body,
Yeah, they can't
no
prove
proof.
anything, yeah.
So he was charged with child
stealing.
stealing. But those charges were later dropped. And the reason that they were dropped is that the prosecution didn't feel they had enough evidence to charge him with murder or kidnapping or something. And they didn't want... but they hoped that they would find her body and then be able to charge him. But they didn't want to cause double jeopardy.
Right, yeah, you can't be charged twice for the same thing.
Crime twice. So they released him. Unfortunately, no clues were ever found, and Teresa was never found.
So he got off scot-free.
She's never been seen again. That was Bigfoot. Yeah. 8-man.
That's a good Norm Macdonald.
It's not the best impersonation I do.
Yeah, but when you do it for 2 minutes straight, it's pretty good.
Style-wise.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. By the way, if you're listening out there, if you haven't heard Norm's CD, Ridiculous, it's not a stand-up CD. He basically does like sketches.
Right.
And they're super offensive, so if you're like the delicate type, don't listen to it. But he's got some great ones on there.
It's wonderful. He's one of the best.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got next, Eric?
All right, now we have a young gentleman who's gone missing. A 20-year-old named Zeb. Now, I'm going to resist the urge to make fun of his name.
Don't do it. We won't do it.
His name's Zeb Quinn. That's all. He's been missing since January 2nd, 2000.
So more recent.
Yeah, more recent. From Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay.
Is that the spot that's blowing up, Asheville? Is that like
Is it happening? I don't know.
I think that's, yeah. Because I told someone a while ago that I was from Ashland, and they're like, "Oh, isn't that like the best place ever?" And I was like,
No, I'm pretty sure no.
I'm not sure I've heard it described that way.
Yeah, if you want to like 8 gun and tackle places, then Ashland's your place.
No, Ashland?
Yeah.
There's no gun stores in Ashland.
Or sorry, fish and tackle.
There is a fishing store. I think there's only one, though. One downtown.
Well, I don't know. The time I went, it was like fish and tackle store after fish and tackle store.
I don't know. I think there's only one, but
and
it is a rural town.
And the newest building was made in 1974.
No, come on now. No, Ashland's changed a lot since I grew up. Trust me, if you think it's what it is now, you should have seen it when I was a kid because it was farms. It was all farms.
Interesting.
Shaw's used to be a farm, that whole plaza.
Interesting. Okay.
Everything was a farm. Every corner I look at, I'm like, that used to be a farm. That used to be a farm. Now it's all just the same strip malls you have everywhere. With CVS and whatever else. Getting back to Zeb Quinn, the 20-year-old from Asheville, North Carolina. After leaving work one night, Zeb met up with his friend, Robert Owens. And their idea was to go and look at a car that Zeb wanted to buy. But while they're setting out to look for this car, he gets a page. This is the olden days. 2000, it sounds recent, but people were still using pagers back in these days. So he gets a page, and he leaves briefly to go and respond to the page. When he returned, he seemed upset. And Owens says at this point he accidentally rear-ended Owens' truck.
Okay.
He apologized, but told Owens, hey man, I got to get out of here. We'll look at the car another time. I got to take off. That's what Owens says. On January 4th, Zeb Quinn calls out from work, saying that he's sick. But the supervisor says, this doesn't really sound like Zeb Quinn calling me.
Mm-hmm. It's fishy.
On that same day, January 4th, Robert Owens receives medical treatment for injuries that he says he received from a road accident on January 3rd. But he says this is not related to Zeb Quinn backing into his truck. He says this is a different road accident.
Separate incident. Okay.
Police are able to trace the mysterious phone call to Zeb's workplace to Owens.
Oh, get out.
Now, Owens says, yes, he did make the call, but that Quinn had asked him to do it.
So what are they doing together?
The police then question Owens' story about receiving these injuries in a car accident that was apparently not reported to the police, yet now he's got rib injuries. And they just so happen to have happened on the same day that his friend goes missing. Broken ribs and head injury.
Huh.
He says the incident wasn't reported because it was just a fender bender. A fender bender that left him again with 3 broken ribs and a head injury. After he made these statements to police, he refused to cooperate any further. In this investigation, it was discovered that Quinn had his eye on a certain young woman who had the very seductive name of Misty Taylor.
That is a seductive name.
Unfortunately, she already had a very jealous and reportedly physically abusive boyfriend. Not a good combination.
I can guess who it is.
It's not Robert Owens.
Ah.
If that's where you're going. But hold on. Because you might be wondering, well, maybe, but obviously Robert Owens was involved in this. What's going on here? But here's what's interesting. Remember earlier when I said that Zeb Quinn left Robert Owens to go and answer a page?
Yes.
That page was from his aunt. But she wasn't home at the time. She was out hanging out with Misty Taylor and her family.
Weird.
So he calls his aunt. Now, I'm unsure whether the aunt picks up, whether she had paged him from wherever they were hanging out.
Yeah.
I couldn't find this information online. Or if maybe she didn't answer the call because she was out with Misty's family. But whatever it was, it seemed to, according to Robert Owens anyway, upset Zeb Quinn. But on the other hand, maybe these things are completely unrelated. And Robert Owens did something to Zeb Quinn. Again, completely unrelated to this.
It sounds too coincidental.
Yeah. Hold on, though, because we're not done with the weird shit. 2 weeks after his disappearance, Quinn's car was found abandoned in a parking lot across from the hotel where his family works. There was a pair of lips with 2 exclamation points drawn in lipstick on his rear window. There were a number of things in the car that did not belong to Quinn, including a jacket that wasn't his, a hotel room key from a so far unidentified hotel, and, strangest of all, a 3-month-old Labrador puppy.
Was it alive or dead?
It was alive. Now, again, because the car is parked across from the hotel where his family works, the police are wondering if this was meant to be some sort of message for his family.
Mm.
By the way, the puppy was adopted by one of the investigators
Oh,
and is
that's
living a
nice.
very
So
happy life.
There's something nice in there at least.
Yes. But still, no one knows where it came from.
That's crazy.
What do you think of that story?
That's really insane. There are a lot of twists and turns in that one.
That's a lot to take in.
That is.
What's your gut telling you?
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know where to go. What are you thinking on it?
I'm looking at Robert Owens.
Yeah, I mean that seems like the obvious choice.
But
there's a lot of there's a lot of things suggesting him.
there are, but then there's things, I mean, maybe the boyfriend of Misty Taylor was involved, or Misty herself, or who knows. What does the abandoned car and the items found
What
in
does
it,
that even mean?
and the lipstick and the exclamation points? It's all,
That's insane.
that's a really weird case.
Yeah,
That's
I
probably
mean-
the weirdest one we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and then I mean that's again we'll go back to talk about maybe wonder what kind of DNA testing they did, like on the lipstick and all that.
It was the year 2000, so
So they had that.
yeah, well established. All right. Well, again, you can see pictures or video or whatever else we might have related to all this on the website, spookyasshit.com. You can also find links to all of our social media from there. Please, we'd like to get those numbers up as high as our downloads are, which is great. Our social media numbers do not reflect how many listeners we have. And
No, not even a little bit.
We'd like that to change. So please, follow us on Twitter. Let us know you're out there. Follow us on Instagram. I post spooky pictures every once in a while. And especially follow us on Facebook. That's a nice way to interact with everybody. And you can find us at facebook.com/spookyas. Did you hear that spooky door slam?
Oh, I heard it.
Yeah. See if the radio picked it up. Until next time, don't be afraid. And don't go missing. Call people. Let them know where you're going.